The Houston Texans have to do this one thing for their offense, and why is it so important, and how exactly do they do it? The offensive line issues are continuing to hinder the credibility that the Texans have when it comes to talking about protecting their quarterback and trade these players. Not trade for these players, but trade these players. That and so much more throughout the course of the show. Of course, we want your comments, your questions, your joys, and your concerns in the comment section as well. The caffeine du jour, a Rise Purple Kool-Aid energy drink this morning for Caffeine with Cody. Appreciate you for checking out the show. That's a good one. All right, what do the Houston Texans have to do? They must do this on offense in the near future, preferably this Sunday at noon against the San Francisco 49ers, but this must show up in the 2025 season, and it's stabilization. They have to stabilize this offense. They can't run high and low and all this kind of stuff, and the floor can't be falling out of this offense in the first quarter, and then they actually move the football a little bit in the fourth quarter, and they've got to stabilize this offense. They've got to find a very solid floor for how this offense operates. They've got to find a very solid floor for being able to score, move the football, put points on the board, okay? They've got to find a nice floor. And then we can worry a bunch about the ceiling. We can worry about where they can go, how much more they can do, but they've got to find a floor. They got to stabilize. How do you do that? Well, that's a good question. It doesn't seem like they have a lot of the answers, but they've got to make it simple. They've got to be able to execute what the game plan is, and they've got to be able to accentuate what little strengths they do have, and they've got to keep these players from being in precarious positions. You're not happy with how the offensive line operates? Well, they shouldn't be running the ball on 3rd and 1 on the left side of the offensive line. You're not happy how CJ Stroud's protected? Well, they shouldn't call deep drop back passes. They should get rid of the ball on time. They should get rid of the ball quickly. They've got to stabilize this offense. And the reason it's so important to stabilize this offense is twofold. There's a 2025 picture about it, and then there's a giant, really important big picture about it. The number one thing about stabilizing this offense is they've got a playoff caliber defense. If they could just figure out a even okay, I'd go as far as to even say if they were just a somewhat bad offense, they'd have more wins than they have now, and they'd have a chance to cobble this thing together for a few weeks, win some football games, and keep themselves in the quest and the idea of making the playoffs. They don't have to be great on offense. They don't have to overcome some tragic, awful, terrible defense. They have a playoff caliber defense. So they could stabilize this offense. They could win some football games. And that's what's really important in 2025. That's one of the most important things for this team. They could win some football games. If they had been just a little bit better, even throughout the muck and the crap and the awfulness of the 4 losses, if they'd been a little bit better on offense at different portions of the game, they've got at least 1 more win, maybe 2 more wins. And they're in a totally different spot. And you're looking around, you're saying, okay, we kind of escaped some of the issues of the early part of the season. Now let's kind of really stabilize, level off, and find out where we can go. But they haven't been able to escape some of their offensive issues because they haven't even been partially bad. They haven't been average. They've been just flat out bad. They've been terrible on offense for long stretches of this season. And so with that, it's kept them from obviously winning football games, which is a thing that you could start doing on a consistent basis if you could get a nice floor built in to this offense. If you could just get a solid level of operation. You don't have to be great. You don't have to put up a whole bunch of points. The defense is going to help you out, but you've got to do something. And if you help them out a little bit, they can help you out even more. So winning games is the number one thing for stabilization. That's the 2025 element if they could stabilize this offense. The other thing is you've got to assess CJ Stroud's viability as a franchise quarterback. You have to figure out if this guy at the helm of this offense is a franchise level quarterback. And while CJ Stroud has had some issues with the things that he's in control of, like getting rid of the ball on time, throwing catchable footballs, not taking a bunch of big extra sack yards when he's sacked, like he hasn't been good at some of those things, but some of the elements around him could make him better at those things. Some of the other 10 players on the field executing better could make him better. But you have to understand at the conclusion of this season, you have to know, if you are the Houston Texans, if you're willing to make this guy your franchise quarterback, because his agent's going to walk to the negotiating table. His agent's going to ask you for a mega contract, a massive deal, and you have to be fully prepared to say, yes, we're happy to pay it. No, we want to wait and we'll pay it later. Or no, we don't want to pay it. And assessing and understanding truly where CJ Stroud is as a football player is really important for this season. It's behind wins because I don't care how good he plays. If you win a bunch of football games, you just figure it out, okay? And you just go through there, and then maybe you could parse through how much did he have to do with the wins here and there. But big picture for 2026 and beyond, you've got to assess where he is as a quarterback. And it's hard to do that when the offensive coordinator looks like he's in over his head half the time. He talks into the microphone. The offensive line can't block. Guys aren't getting open, or guys aren't running the routes that they're supposed to run. It's very hard to go through that assessment element of CJ Stroud when you can't get a solid footing for him to operate on. And again, the stuff he's in control of hasn't been good. He's missed open receivers. He's thrown uncatchable footballs. His footwork, he mentioned it himself, his footwork has not been where he wants it to be. He runs back too many yards for sacks. There's elements that he's in control of that he's got to do better of. Well, that's part of assessing him, is what's he in control of and how much of the environment affects him in trying to figure out who he is and what he's doing. So you really need to stabilize this offense. You really need to put this thing together, okay? Put this thing together and have a solid base so you can win some football games and you can find out about your franchise quarterback and find out if he is a franchise quarterback. Because today, I would tell you that it doesn't feel like CJ Stroud is a franchise quarterback. I couldn't assuredly tell you that he is a franchise quarterback today. That is not something I have a clear picture of. Maybe they have a little bit clearer picture in the building, but I don't. It's very murky for me. It'd be a big question for me if the Texans wanted to pay him. Why are you paying him based on the results that we have right now? Now, he's got lots of games to change that. The Texans have lots of games to reassess that. But I would be far more confident from where we sit today of just letting CJ Stroud, letting him play out one more year. And then if he's way awesome, pay the extra toll, pay the extra fee, pay the extra little bit that it's going to cost. But you've got to stabilize this offense to figure out if you can win football games and then figure out about your quarterback. How do you go about stabilizing it? DeMeco Ryans has a plan. I'll tell you about it right after we talk about my friends at Sleeper, Daily Fantasy. It's very easy. You're making a couple of predictions, more or less, on given predicted stats. We'll put together a sleeper entry on the show tomorrow, but you can get signed up today. Use my code Stoots, STOOTS. Use the link in the description down below, and you're going to get a deposit match up to $100. So you put in $100, you get $100 extra to play with, and you're also, without a deposit, going to get a free $20 entry. So you get signed up today with the code Stoots, STOOTS. You'll have that free $20 entry, and then we can put an entry together tomorrow on the show. And we can go about, hopefully, if we get all our predictions correct, multiplying our money many times. Sometimes it's 5 times, sometimes it's 10 times, 20 times. There's ways you can 100 times your entry fee. Sleeper is fun. Daily Fantasy is fun. Nice and easy. The app is fantastic. The app's great for using it as a scores app as well. I know basketball's back. You got football on Saturdays and Sundays. Man, it's so easy to navigate, understand where everything is, and see all the stats and updates live. Man, I love the scores app, but I love playing Daily Fantasy with Sleeper. Now, terms and conditions do apply. Check out Sleeper's terms and conditions, but use that code Stoots, STOOTS, and the link in the description down below when you get signed up at Sleeper. So how do you fix this? How do you stabilize the offense? How do you go about creating a solid base for the Houston Texans to operate? Well, DeMeco Ryans has a plan. It's just do what the coaches say. I know that sounds pretty simple and formulaic, but DeMeco Ryans explained this week that players haven't been doing what the coaches have been asking them to do. They haven't been executing the game plan. And it's not necessarily hey, they ran the play and they went and they just weren't talented enough to block their guy, be faster than their guy, cover their guy. It was just, they just haven't been doing what the coaches want them to do. How does that happen? DeMeco Ryans, and what are you doing about it?
I'm figuring out why things are happening. It's always baffling as a coach when you go through and you practice a certain thing and you work it a certain way and guys get in the game and do something completely different. Well, that's being disjointed. Like, we got to be on the same page and not on the same page like we don't know what we're doing. We just got to do what we called. We got to run what we call, right? The techniques we work, the things we established throughout training camp, we got to do that. Right, and when we do that, you'll see we operate efficiently. We are able to be in the right spot defensively, special teams-wise. We're able to get our blocks done the right way when we just execute what we practice all week, right? You can't get in a game. So I told our guys today, you can't get in a game and overcomplicate football. I know football can be a complex game within a game, but to me, football is simple. And you make it simple, you keep it simple, and allow guys to go play fast. All right, and that's what we've done, but we don't need to make things up. We don't need to try to do something or press and make a play.
Okay, so it's simple. My stabilization plan, I've overthought it. It's just listen to the coaches. Here's a couple of problems with this, and perhaps the main problem with this is that's what it is. Like, That's all it is. It's just, well, the guys haven't been doing what we told them to do. That's it. You just needed guys to actually run the game plan of the offensive coordinator that doesn't have a feel for the offense. You need guys to go out there and execute blocking schemes that it doesn't look like they're capable of executing. It's pretty tough to believe that the answer is just follow the plan when these are the guys that are in charge of the plan. When Nick Caley is the offensive coordinator putting together this offense, Cole Popovich is coaching up this group. And if the players can't execute the plan, yes, part of it is the players' fault. If they are just going off script, not doing what they're supposed to do, okay, that's extending to the coaches to an extent, because isn't it your job to get them on the same page, get them to execute the plan? Or maybe the plan is not executable by these players. Maybe the plan that you have for these players can't be executed by these players. Like execution, the ability to execute is necessary. Like, to do the plan, you have to execute the plan. The ability to like reach the level to execute, you have to have that ability. What if they're just not talented enough? Don't you need to adjust the plan? And I feel like it's pretty interesting because that's as close as DeMeco Ryans has ever gotten at the podium to saying it's the player's fault. It's that guy's fault and that guy's fault and that guy's fault and that guy's fault. Now, I didn't name names or position groups or anything. DeMeco Ryans right there said it's not the headset's fault. It's not the Denny's menu's fault. It's not the eye in the sky's fault. It's the guy that puts the pads on, goes out there, and doesn't do what we tell him to do. It's that guy's fault. That's what that answer was. Why aren't guys doing what they're told? Well, I'm trying to figure out why they're not doing what they're told, why they're not executing what we asked them to do. And we can leave the word execute out because it's a dirty word to some people. It's a word that you heard too much and it kind of, disgusts you. We can leave that out if we want to. Why aren't they doing what the coaches are asking them to do? Maybe they're not capable. And if they're not capable, you have to adjust the game plan. Okay? Any teacher would tell you if a kid can't execute, there's that word again. If the kid can't do the material, give them material they can do until they get to the material that they previously had. It's that way in football. DeMeco Ryans just said it's simple. Okay, keep it simple. And maybe it is the most simplistic element of the offense right now. Maybe it is simple right now and they still can't do it. And then by virtue of that, then it's a player issue. I just have a hard time when I look around football and I look around the league and I see all these other teams that lack talent go out there and move the football on a consistent basis. I just go out there and I watch all these other football organizations that don't have as much talent or shouldn't have as much talent or very clearly to me don't have as much talent as the Houston Texans, and they go and move the football and they put points on the board and they operate at a level where, my God, if the Texans had that offense, they'd be undefeated. So I can't believe that they just can't make anything happen with the 11 guys they put on the field for offense consistently. So while DeMeco Ryans stands at the podium and without saying the words, it's the player's fault, says it's the player's fault, I have a hard time believing that. Because if they can't do what the coaches are telling them to do, you have to ask why. And if they can't do that, don't keep asking them to do it. Isn't that the square peg round hole conversation? Isn't that the whole reason you made the change on offense? If they can't do it, don't ask them to do it. If they can't do algebra, don't ask them to do calculus. If they can't do basic math, don't ask them to do algebra. And Nick Caley sat up there the very first time he's introduced, we're going to accentuate the strengths of our players. Does that feel like the offense? Does that feel like that's what they're doing? When they run the ball on 3rd and 1 against one of the most ferocious defensive lines in all of football, and they run it behind Arion Taylor-Sri and Laken Tomlinson, is that accentuating the strengths of those two players? No, it's not. So we've come all the way here to say, if they can't do it, it's not yet the player's fault. It's still the coach's fault. Despite the fact the head coach stood up there and said, guys aren't doing what we're telling them to do, and that's their fault. Well, maybe they can't do what you're telling them to do, and then that would be your fault, DeMeco Ryans. Be your fault, Nick Caley. Be your fault, Frank Ross, and all the other coaches on that coaching staff. Got some conversations about CJ Stroud I want to get to. Got some stuff about players the Texans should trade. Not trade for, but should trade. If you have a super chat, you go to the front of the line. The Drunk Texan has one. Everyone blames CJ and Caley, but I blame DeMeco. He's a good defensive coordinator, not a good head coach. There's definitely some adjustments and moving parts and some changing pieces. And look, as much as I talked about assessing CJ Stroud here in 2025, you need to be assessing DeMeco Ryans as well. You need to be assessing his viability as a long-term head coach for the Houston Texans. He has final say in the building. He allowed Nick Caley to be hired. He signed off on it. It hasn't worked. And the way, my goodness, the way he talks about the Kubiak-Shanahan system, the way he talks about the Kubiak-Shanahan system is like when you hear your buddy who's in a relationship with a girl that he doesn't really like that much talk about his ex. Because, man, DeMeco Ryans loves to talk about how awesome that Kubiak-Shanahan system is, how great Clint Kubiak has been in evolving it, how Kyle Shanahan's the best at running that system because he just does all sorts of different things with it. And he's over here running some knockoff Patriots system with a sprinkle of the Rams in there, but the sprinkler doesn't run out of Rams sprinkles, so they're back to running the Patriots BS. It kind of sounds like a guy who wishes he was with his ex still. You broke up with her. DeMeco Ryans could have kept the same style of system. He could have hired Clint Kubiak. Viability of DeMeco Ryans as a head coach is under assessment this year too. Absolutely. Wags. When do we consider this season being lost? The homestand will tell you everything. The homestand will tell you everything. The homestand, these next 3 games in the game in Tennessee, will shift how you should approach and look at the rest of this season. Because they don't do well in this homestand in that game in Tennessee, their next 4, they'll really give you an idea of where they are. They go 3-1 of the next 4. They're a 5-5 football team, and they've got an opportunity to try to make something happen here in the back half of the season. All right. But if they go 2-2, they go 1-3, it's it's teetering on absolute disaster of a season? It's a good question, Wags. Appreciate you. All right, let's get to some of your comments, your questions, your joys, and your concerns. Mr. Bo on the top is here. Good to see you. Good to see you, Luis. John McClain's Chains is here. Rob Dogg's here. There's a chance to trade for the O-line. This season pretty much over. I would call if I was Nick Caserio. I'd call and see if there was an O-lineman out there to help. Maybe they could add another lineman to the offensive line rotation. Bryce says, hey, Cody, when are you going to open up to Collins again? We'll get some of that going here in the future. Jalen Johnson's here. What do they need to do is not play Lakin, just stick with juice. Right? From your lips to God's ears. Jerome is here. Johnny's here. Just simplify things on offense if need be. Seems like Haley's shoving his play calls down the offensive throat and expecting them to run it. I want to know what the feedback from players is in meetings. And run a damn QB sneak when it's needed. Yeah, Johnny, that would be nice. Hennessy, we need to find a few plays and rep them as much as possible, be our core offense. Then branch off of those. None of this running totally different stuff from week to week. Yeah, that game plan offense, it's tough sometimes. A game plan offense, you take what was working and you throw it away because you got to exploit the weaknesses of the other team. How about you just be really good at stuff and do it every week? Jake says, press Kaylee today. Cody needs to stop saying what we want to hear. Well, we'll see what he has to say today. He's got to explain this left guard situation to me. We'll talk about that here in a minute. If you know our offense is unable to run the ball against the defense, what should be the counter to that? Throw. The Seattle was very ready for the run. If you hit a little play action, throw it. And then on the 1 yard line, quarterback sneak it. It's one of the most unstoppable plays in football. They've run it effectively earlier this year, multiple times. It's not like I'm asking them to do something they've never done. BG says he'll be a Ram sooner or later. Is that about CJ? He does love him some Sean McVay, and Stafford's not long for this football world. Dex says Texans have zero chance of beating San Fran. D'Amico's a terrible head coach. Not a chance he beats Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, the 49ers definitely got the coaching advantage in this one. Stoots, in your opinion, what trade is worse from a team performance standpoint, the Tunsil trade or the Hopkins trade? The Hopkins trade is awful. I mean, it's just you didn't get fair market value for him. Weeks later, somebody else got more for less. What you did with the picks and the money was awful. So is that one. You could have figured this out without Laramie Tunsil. But the Hopkins deal was terrible. A couple more comments and questions after I tell you about TDECU. TDECU is where you want to put your money and where you want to get your Houston Texans debit card. You get 15% off the online team store when you sign up at TDECU. Get that Houston Texans debit card. TDECU.org/Texans is where you can find out more information about it. And membership's required, insured by the NCUA, but there's all sorts of perks for being a member at TDECU. You're going to get access to events at NRG Stadium for having that Houston Texans debit card. You're going to get a beautiful, brand new, awesome debit card from TDECU, and they take care of your money at TDECU. They make your money work for you. You can trust them with your money. The banking app, all the other fantastic perks roll into one of the 15 greater Houston area locations. And check out TDECU. Get signed up. You can even start the process right there online. You get signed up online at TDECU.org/Texans. And the only thing that you're required to be is a member or a resident of the state of Texas. So you don't live in Houston. You can't make it in one of the 15 greater Houston area locations. They'll send you your debit card in the mail, and you can still put your money with them. All right. You don't have to roll into one of the 15 greater Houston area locations to get signed up. You can do it right there online. Find out more, answer all your questions. TDECU.org/Texans. Appreciate them for riding along with us here in football season. Oh, look at this. JB Allen, the Annihilators, gifted a membership to the channel. Members get early access to recorded videos. There's going to be some member-only polls as well as some member-only videos coming your way. And Jason has gifted 5 memberships. I appreciate both you guys. JB, Jason, thank you guys so much. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. DQ's here. Blame Nick Caserio for acting like his stuff don't stink. Yeah, he's had he's been pretty proud of what he's been able to accomplish, and it don't always look too good. Wags wants quick plays. Johnny says, what a wild concept. Just listen to your coaches. Yeah, I wonder if the buy-in is tough. I wonder if the buy-in's tough to listen to those guys. Because maybe they have been unimpressed up to this point. Because if you string out a play, it makes the O-line block longer, and that is where they struggle. Oh, my goodness. They certainly struggle in those long developing ones. Is DeMeco losing the respect of his players? How does this happen? It's possible, BG. Like, there's a chance. There's a chance that, again, hard to listen to the coaches because maybe you don't buy in. There's a chance. Johnny makes a great point. All this coming out of the bye is super concerning. Yeah, you should have been hitting the ground running. You should have been rolling out of the bye. And all this is showing up. It's terrible. Paz in Texas, if McDaniel gets fired, do you fire Caley and bring him in for next season? You're talking about Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. If he got fired this year, I'd bring him in as a consultant on the staff already. As Patrick's reading my mind here. Yeah, bring him in for a consultant now. And, if you need him to kind of take over, neuter Nick Caley. Dawn asks, what if it's not they can't, but they won't? Then you have a head coach problem. If the players won't listen to the staff, won't listen to the coach, they have a head coach problem. The tough part is the defense listens. The defense is good. The defense clearly executes what they ask them to do. All right? Now, they don't tell them to spine buster the quarterback on the sideline like you're Batista at WrestleMania. But, the defense listens. So it's the offense that has the issue. And they had this problem with Bobby last year. They didn't buy Bobby. The offense didn't buy into Bobby at the end of the year. I think it was Detroit when they lost Bobby. Or when Bobby lost them. Okay? When Bobby lost them, I think it felt like it was Detroit when Bobby lost them. They didn't buy into him. I wonder if they buy into Nick Caley. And as Sid notes, Caley doesn't have any leverage left. We have to save our season. That's another thing. You have to have that tough conversation if you're DeMeco Ryans. You look in the mirror, you say, can I fire this guy 6 games into this thing because it's that bad? And hand it to Gerard Johnson or Bill Lazor and do something else? Wags asks, is Cole Popovich the problem? Or is it Caley for not coming up with a scheme that suits the player's strengths? Cole Popovich isn't helping. And he's not helping because this guard rotation is one of the dumbest things that I've ever seen in my life. And the Texans are losing credibility on the offensive line by the second because Nick Caserio puts it together. They coach it up. But DeMeco Ryans, again, is the final decision maker in everything in the building. Nick Caley got here in, late January, February, whatever it was. And they helped put together the direction of everything. Like, if Nick Caley walked into the building and said, I got to have a really expensive and veteran offensive line to get this thing where it needs to go, they'd have given it to him. They'd went and found it. But Nick Caley coached on the Patriots when they had a 7th rounder at left tackle and a undrafted free agent at center and a 4th rounder at right guard and a 6th rounder at right tackle. So they thought they could gimmick it together because him and his buddy Cole Popovich watched it happen in New England, oblivious to the fact that Tom Brady made those guys better. So they thought they could gimmick it together. So they're losing credibility by getting rid of their best offensive lineman. Okay. Now, I was in favor of that idea. I like that idea, assuming they had a good plan to come up, to replace Laramie Tunsil and the other lineman they got rid of. The plan ended up sucking because they spent a few $1 million on Laken Tomlinson. They spent $13 million on Cam Robinson. He's not even on the team anymore. They had a rookie play over Cam Robinson because Ariante Ursary was better. And then he's not been very good. But they're losing credibility with the offensive line. And it's getting worse because they're doing some cockamamie left guard experiment where they're rotating Juice Scruggs and Laken Tomlinson. They are taking 2 players on a position that typically doesn't rotate. Who else is doing this in the league? They're taking 2 healthy football players and rotating them in on a per series basis. And they're putting the players in a precarious position because they can't say it's bullshit that they're doing this. That's not good for the player. But it is. Look at Laken Tomlinson. He veteran. He's been around the block. He was a good soldier when he was asked about this cockamamie idea.
Can you kind of walk us through how the team kind of approached you and explain what they're doing with you and Juice at left guard?
Whatever the team needs from me, I'm all for it.
Have you ever been a part of anything quite like that?
Anything the team needs, I'm all for it. I've always been that type of guy.
So with that, how do they tell you this is like the best way to approach it? What's the? I'm not that it's a sales pitch, but like, what are they saying? Why this is the best?
Tell me to do something, I do it. What else?
I'm saying, did they explain anything? Or like, no,
that's my job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm not questioning why you're doing it. I'm asking, like, if they explain why they're deciding this is what's best.
That's my job. I don't understand. I don't understand the question. Sorry.
Does it make the job more difficult not being in there for the whole game?
I just care about anything I can do for the team. That's what I care about.
All right, so he was a good soldier because Cody Stoots, the offensive guard, would not have handled that well. Cody Stoots, the offensive guard, would have said, "This is bullshit. I can't get in a rhythm. I can't get into a consistent mode with my teammates when I'm in and out of the offensive line situation." We haven't talked to Juice Scruggs. We expect to talk to him today after practice, but I got to imagine if he plays good soldier, then hey, they got to him. MK Ultra, they changed their mind. They got to him. But the Texans continue to lose credibility with the way that they approach and talk about the offensive line. Not only have the players that they have selected from the draft not been good, Kenyon Green's not on the team anymore. Juice Scruggs is a starter, a rotator at left guard. Blake Fisher can't get on the field unless it's a sixth offensive lineman situation. The players they brought in haven't been any good. Laken Tomlinson hasn't been good. Jake Andrews looks overwhelmed at times. Ed Ingram, hey, he got that Pro Football Focus grade slammed in his face this week. They've bet on Titus Howard, and Titus Howard's really good for 1.8 seconds, and then he stops blocking inexplicably because I guess he's only a part-time tackle. And then Ariante Ursery looks overwhelmed at the left tackle spot. It doesn't look good for Ariante Ursery. They continue to lose credibility. And then they continue to defend the operation because D'Amico Ryans was asked about technique versus talent on the offensive line, and he didn't intend to defend the way that they operated, but he intended to explain that he believes you can overcome some deficits if you have good technique. And then he inexplicably ended up defending the way that they've operated on the offensive line.
A ton of it, I believe, truly a ton of it up front has to do with technique. Right? And of course, you want to be the most talented group. You want to have the most talented guy possible. But I've seen guys of all who came in the offensive line from all different, whether it's undrafted all the way to first rounder. It's just about really, that group is really about the details and the communication and being tied together, playing together. That is the bulk of it, whoever steps out there. I've seen people win games with backup offensive linemen, seen them win with starter, but it doesn't change. You're working in a small space. You got to be on it. Things happen quickly. You got to be able to react very quickly up front and just be where you're supposed to be, putting your hat in the right place, shooting your hands when you need to shoot your hands, like playing with great footwork, good knee bend. When you play with low pads, you have a chance to be successful up front. If you do something erratic and you're out of position or you're playing too wide, now you're just susceptible to a lot of inside movements, which we can do a better job of here, is just protecting more inside out.
Oh, talent is unnecessary if you have good enough technique. I have a question for you. Would it stand to reason that the more talented football players on the offensive line have better and more consistent technique? Wouldn't it stand to reason that if technique is essential, talent, how you assess it, includes how technical that player is? Quentin Nelson, the Colts left guard, is not the best football player at his position at left guard because he is the strongest or the fastest or the most agile offensive lineman. He's the best left guard because he's the most consistent with extreme, impressive technique. More talented players have better technique, and they are more consistent with their technique. More talented players cost more. They cost more than a $5 million investment in Laken Tomlinson. They cost more than a waiver claim of Jake Andrews. They cost more than a late round pick swap for Ed Ingram. They cost more. Okay? Because they are better at that very thing that you said is the great equalizer, which is technique. Now, I say losing credibility with the offensive line. They may have no credibility with you on the offensive line. Certainly, I would understand if you felt that way, but it is wild that they continue to defend how they operated as an offensive line. And I understand there's some things on the edges that could get better. CJ could get rid of the ball faster. They could block better at tight end and running back and wide receiver in some of these plays. They could call more short passes. The wide receivers could run the correct route and get open and things like that. Those are all things that could certainly work and happen that could help the offensive line. The team has not done a good job putting these guys in a position to succeed, which goes again to the square peg round hole theory that we've talked about a couple of different times, but I digress. They don't put these guys in a good position to succeed. They've not helped them. They also can't help themselves because they're not a very talented bunch. Okay, that's just gets me worked up here on the offensive line. But they continue to lose the credibility with the offensive line. Couple of things about CJ Stroud, couple of trades the Texans need to make, and then we will get to some more of your comments, your questions, your joys, and concerns. Wags, you lose cohesiveness on the O-line by switching out players. It worked in Baltimore. Let these guys work. I'm glad LT is gone, but need a left tackle to anchor the O-line. Yeah, I'll never listen to this crew ever talk about cohesion and fluidity with an offensive line because they're swapping left guards in the middle of games. They're making changes a week before the season starts because one guy gets hurt and moving everybody to all these different positions. Like it's malpractice sometimes what they do. Wags, appreciate you for the super chat. Renee wants the entire coaching staff fired. I don't know. That's expensive. I don't know. That puts you back. Again, you got to play off defense. You got to get somewhere. Halston Keller says, for the first time I heard CJ say something about his footwork, he said he has to get better at footwork. That's good. It's good that he's assessed where he needs to get better. Some of the other guys, Nick Caley, D'Amico Ryans, are just blind about the offense sometimes. Brian says it's simple. The Houston Texans must not suck on offense to suck on offense. Yeah, if they could just suck less, like if the plan was just suck less, they might have something for offense. Patrick with a funny. Do we think general soreness for the shoulder is a concern from keeping CJ from sneaking the ball more? I hope that's not the case. Mustard paper. Cody, you and Landry, keep my workday going with y'all's podcast. Keep it up. Hey, thanks for watching, man. We appreciate it. If we can entertain you or make the workday go by faster or anything like that, we've done our job. And you guys interacting and liking and sharing and commenting and members and super chats and all that, you make our job fun too. Thank you. D'Amico Ryans with a Patriots logo. We will ride what we have for the rest of the season. No changes. The vets will win us games. Yeah, the vets at wide receiver would be scary to have pop in. You gotta like the gimmick YouTube commenter. JB Allen, the Annihilator. With the amount of cockiness Hannah and Cal had before the season, changes have to be made in the offseason. Caserio got to go. Yeah, there's a lot of fall guys before D'Amico Ryans. Both of them are named Nick, and there's probably some more after that. I would be interested to see what D'Amico Ryans could do with a new coaching or a new scouting staff. What could D'Amico Ryans, if he brought in someone he's familiar with, or he's worked with before, or he knows, and they brought in a new staff and had some new blood in that room. I'd be interested to see kind of what that would look like. And I want to put the name in everybody's brains right now. I want to put the name in everybody's brains right now. Ran Carthon. Carthon. He was the Titans EVP and GM in 2024. He was the GM in 2023 for the Titans as well. He worked with DeMeco Ryans in San Francisco. And Carthon was a fast riser. So that'd be a name I'd think about if they got rid of Nick Caserio. So just keep that name in the back of your mind here. If they get rid of Nick Caserio and they blow out his coaching staff, Ran Carthon. All right, a couple more comments that I want to get to. And I'm trying to get to as many as I can because I still have one CJ Stroud thing I want to get to. We still got to get to practice. But let's see here. Big balls on my team. For me, DeMeco is the problem. Finally, we can clearly see the problem with his choice. Look, if DeMeco is the problem, you got a much bigger problem because you then need to start over at the head coach spot, and then you got to figure out who the GM is, and that's a lot of money, and I don't know if they want to fire both of those guys. And again, I'd be interested in seeing DeMeco Ryans with a different personnel staff before I'm ready to move on. Jerome, Texans can't draft O lineman. If it wasn't Titus, it was going to be Andre Dillard. Trash. Or Cody Ford. He's not been good either. So, the lineman evaluation for this organization's been tough. In fact, Dwayne Brown's probably the best lineman they've ever drafted, with Eric Winston probably being the second best lineman they've ever drafted. Ben Jones was good for a while, and of course they just let him walk in free agency. Brandon Brooks was good, and then he went and was an all-pro in Philadelphia. Wade Smith was a free agent acquisition. They traded for Chris Myers. Yeah, they've had some unimpressive offensive linemen over the course of their history as an organization. Ryan Justice, is a GM going to want to be here if they can't pick their coach? That's why if they fire Nick Caserio and they keep DeMeco Ryans, that's why you would hire someone DeMeco Ryans is comfortable with and friendly with. And Ran Carthon would be that guy. Worked with him in San Francisco. I know they know each other. If you're firing Nick Caserio, who's already below DeMeco Ryans in the pecking order, you're not hiring somebody that's going to sit above DeMeco Ryans. You're hiring somebody that's good with being in the position that Caserio's in right now, which is below DeMeco Ryans in the decision-making of the organization. You're not hiring somebody to surpass DeMeco's decision-making power. You're hiring somebody that DeMeco gets along with. It's a good question, though, Ryan. Now, does that limit your candidate pool? Certainly. But there's also one of 32 jobs, and the Texans pay really well. Well, maybe they don't pay as well when, it's not Jack Easterby with the same agent as the general manager negotiating the contract. A favorite of Landry Locker to bring up. All right, let's see. What do we got here? I do enjoy the DeMeco Ryans comments. CJ's been taking salsa lessons to help with his footwork. You'll see him execute better against the 49ers. These make me laugh. Jerome, we're not talking about top 5 draft picks yet. We're not doing that. But we might do a mock draft tomorrow. Always like when we have the unique names that perhaps are from across the pond. Paige Yarvian. Hope that Yarvinen. Paige Yarvinen. Hope I said that correctly. Is it out of the realm of reality that we watch Sunday and we see Noel returning punts because Berrios is wide receiver 1 because of his bet status? Oh, no. Sometimes you have to laugh to keep from crying. I got to assume that Braxton Berrios will return punts because hopefully Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins are featured in this game against the San Francisco 49ers. Royal George, do you think the Texans can win 8 of their next 11? Seems like a lofty task. Let me get through San Francisco before I start making long-term predictions. Can they beat San Fran? Sure, but not because I think the Texans are awesome. I just think San Fran's dealing with a lot of stuff. Patrick with another funny. Chatting with a friend, he said the Texans were stuck on perpetual mediocrity. I said, now hold on. Sometimes we're flat out awful too. Yeah, I'd take perpetual mediocrity from the offense right now. If the offense was mediocre, they'd have 5 wins. If the offense was mediocre, they'd have 5 wins. Hannah's been invisible since the losses started piling up. That's not true. She did a sit down with KHOU, CBS affiliate here, and she said she still believes in the coach and the team. Stoots, no one from the Titans staff. Well, and then people not liking. I'm telling you, just get Rand Carthan's mind in the back of your name in the back of your mind. You're going to hear it if Nick Caserio gets fired. You're going to hear it. Outlaw, Mr. Stoots, how are you, sir? Go help Casserole draft some O-linemen for the love of God. It always does tickle me when they call him Nick Casserole. It always does tickle me. A couple more things here about CJ Stroud. I love this comment here from CJ. I don't know that I totally believe it, but CJ's not lacking for confidence in what he does.
Monday for me, of course, wasn't my best outing. I don't think I played well, but to me, like, it really starts with preparation. I thought I prepared as best as I could for that game, and sometimes you go out there and lay an egg. But my confidence is high as ever. I have the most confidence not only in my team but in myself. And I'm just going to continue to show up every game. And I think as time goes on, you start clicking more and more and more. You can see when we were playing against Tennessee and Baltimore and then had the bye, came out. We had a really good week of practice, but sometimes that just happens. And so I think the focus for me is to stay confident in my process and my preparation and myself, So I'm going to continue to do that, and I'm going to continue to get better in areas I need to get better in. But, yeah, there's things schematically as well, or footwork and different things like that I can always get better in as well.
CJ Stroud, confident as he's ever been. Now, there's a couple ways you can look at this. One, you got to say it because you got to say it in the mirror to believe it. It's that thing that you say out loud. The self-improvement stuff where it's like, you got to say it out loud to believe it. Feels like it's one of those, maybe. Also, I read it as perhaps CJ is very confident what he does. He's confident that he is executing well, that he is doing a very good job at what he does. So, I don't know that I agree, but it's good that he's confident. And the big thing for me is he looked like he was in a good mood at the podium. And I wonder if there's a seriousness to, hey, I got to get right. I got to take care of my stuff. And I got to look like I am not the problem, because then that maximizes the perception of me and perhaps how much money I make. Because if he can convince everyone that he's not the problem, he still gets paid at the end of the year. But if he's part of the problem, which he is to an extent right now, if he's part of the problem, he doesn't get paid. But if he convinces everybody, including himself, that he's not part of the problem, perhaps that big contract still shows up at the end of the year. It's just something to think about. But hey, if he's confident, go out there and let it fly against the 49ers. Find Jaden Higgins down the sideline. Hit Jalen Noel in that quick pass over the middle. Get it out to Braxton Berrios. Line up and fire it to Xavier Hutchinson. Run that cool play action play and get it to Dalton Schultz. I like that play. Dalton Schultz played a hell of a game against Seattle. Probably not getting enough credit for that, but I thought that was an interesting comment from CJ's. Confidence as high as it's ever been. In everything, in the offense, in the team. I mean, 2 weeks ago, you said we got to quit doing stuff we're not good at and do stuff we are good at. Then they went and had a bye week, and then they went and had a crappy offensive performance. I don't know if I'm buying the confidence conversation. I don't know that I'm buying it. Okay, I promise you some names. Players the Texans should trade. Player the Texans should trade. So, I know we talked about the trade deadline last week, players they should go get, think about, or 2 weeks ago, whatever week it was. These are players the Texans should trade. They should get rid of these players. Okay? Trade Dameon Pierce for whatever you can get. I don't care if it's a 2027 conditional 7th round pick. Trade Dameon Pierce. He didn't even get mentioned when the offensive coordinator last week talked about running the football. The offensive coordinator talked about Woody Marks and Nick Chubb and Dario Gumbale and British Brooks. And he didn't mention Dameon Pierce. He's been inactive, a healthy scratch multiple times. Whatever you can for Dameon Pierce. Someone out there wants to give Dameon Pierce a shot to revive his career. Go find him and get rid of Dameon Pierce for whatever you can get. Trade Darrell Taylor. $5 million in the offseason. Had some really good moments in training camp. He's a healthy scratch every week. Now you got Danico Autry. You got 5 defensive ends that are healthy on this team, and Darrell Taylor's taking up a roster spot, can't crack the rotation. You got Willie Anderson, you got Danielle Hunter, you got Derek Barnett, you got Dylan Horton, and now you got Danico Autry. You got 5 defensive ends. You got Solomon Byrne on the practice squad. Get Darrell Taylor out of here for a late-round pick. All right? You spent $5 million. It hadn't worked. It was a reclamation project. It was a maybe D'Amico Ryans can do something with him. He can't. He's a healthy scratch more often than not. Get a late-round pick for him. Now, this is a name that showed up on ESPN's list of players that should be available via trade. I don't know how good this guy is. I don't feel like he's very good. He can't even crack the rotation for the Texans. But surely some team starved for a linebacker out there would like Christian Harris. Christian Harris. If I told you could trade Christian Harris and a 6th-round pick and get a 5th-round pick, would you do it? I would. If you could trade Christian Harris and a 7th-round pick and get a 6th-round pick, would you do it? I would. And then I'd give somebody else his roster spot. Somebody with maybe some potential, some special teams usefulness. But trade Christian Harris. The only hit he's made is he hit a guy on the sideline Monday nights. And the only reason he didn't get a flag is because the official was holding guys back from fighting. It's the only hit he's made this season. So attach a pick to Christian Harris, like a 6th, and get back a 5th. Or attach a 7th and get back a 6th. Use him to move up around. As value to move up around. Who says no? But maybe the league, because I don't know how much value there is to Christian Harris. And this one has an asterisk. Danielle Hunter, future 1st-round pick. Would you trade Danielle Hunter right now for a future 1st? I wouldn't. Not right now. But you get 2 games before the deadline. If the Texans lose to the 49ers, if the Texans lose to the Denver Broncos, they are a 2-6 football team, and you are probably not going anywhere but down after that. If that's the case, think about moving Danielle Hunter. The contract is very expensive, but the Texans can eat a lot of it. The length and the long-term commitment is not there. It's only runs through next season. And he'd be the 2nd-best player available behind defensive end Trey Hendrickson from the Cincinnati Bengals. Could you pry away a future 1st-round pick from, say, the Dallas Cowboys for Danielle Hunter? Could you pry away a future 1st-round pick from somebody for Danielle Hunter? I believe you could. But the asterisk is there because if you win the next 2 games, you're still in the hunt. You're still hanging around, and you might need Danielle Hunter. But I'd move Danielle Hunter if they lose the next 2 football games. I'd move off the highly paid pass rusher and get somebody else in there. Again, you got 4 other defensive ends. Give one of those guys the opportunity. Alan with a super chat. Cody, do you know the name DJ Debick? He went to John Carroll, was in the Patriots with Casserole. Alan, that's very funny. Yeah, Debick's a part of the scouting staff, front office staff, however you want to say it. There's a lot of former Patriots guys in that front office. Wouldn't you know it? So, yeah, if you rip out all the Patriot stuff, you're getting rid of a lot of the scouting staff too, which they've kept it purposely small for whatever reason. I don't know. A lot of teams have larger staffs than them. They've kept it purposely small. Somebody who used to work in that version of the football operations told me that they keep it small on purpose. I don't know. Maybe they should have added somebody who could scout offensive linemen in the past couple of years. But, hey, Nick Caserio told us earlier this year that their process is good. They don't need to change anything. But, yeah, I've heard that name before. Former Patriots guy. Preston. Can we just fire everyone and give Coach Ryans all power like Bill O'Brien had? I think D'Amico wants that. But could you fire everybody and get D'Amico Ryans, a friend of his, to run the football operations stuff? And then he didn't have to, worry about Nick Caserio's input? Yeah, sure, you could. You could. So, Press, appreciate the super chat. All right, what does everybody think about the trades? Sean Castillo, the Schultz contract year play needs to be a Harvard study. The guy just crushes it in contract years, and this is a pseudo contract year for him. Danielle Hunter's on Jamie Allen and the Alligators trade list. Noah agrees. Touch of Trent wants to see Christian Harris gone. Every time I see Hunter, he's spinning out of position. Trent wants Pierce gone. You're not getting anything for Damian. That's why I said conditional 7th-round pick. That thing they did for Mark Ingram where I don't think the pick ever came to him. Just get him out. Get him out. Changing of the guard. Give Jawar Jordan his roster spot. Yeah, send him to the Chargers. Send him and somebody else to the Chargers on the offensive line. They need offensive linemen. No one's Christian Harris gone. Kaisa, only contributions trying to beat up JSN on the sideline. Yep. Yeah, don't trade Tommy Togiai. I like Tommy Togiai. Don't trade him. If the Cardinals could turn David Johnson into DeAndre Hopkins, maybe the Texans can get something for Dameon Pierce. Now, that's funny. I don't care who you are. That's funny right there. Big Balls says, I agree 2,000% with these three guys. And then we got a couple of not right nows for Danielle Hunter. The last game was disappointing. Danielle Hunter did not have a good game. Did not have a good game. They got to finish better. You're right, Noah. They got to finish better. It's a good question, Patrick. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. I would tend to lean helping, but could he be in the way? Jera would give a first for Hunter. I mean, I'd take one of those future firsts the Cowboys have. Yes, trade more defensive players. They didn't do enough to win us games. Day Miko Ryans is such a funny troll account. It's good. I like that. Mark wants to keep Hunter. I get it. Assuming Kaylee gets fired, who's next? I mean, Mike McDaniel would be at the top of the list. I mean, coached with D'Amico Ryans in San Fran, runs a Shanna Kubiak system. McDaniel would be the guy. Rick Smith hasn't been in football for years. So, who can the Texans trade for? We'll worry about trade for after San Fran. Little Jesus says there's some lollygag on Monday. Senor Larry wants to trade Titus Howard. Careful. You want Blake Fisher on the field? That's how you get Blake Fisher on the field. What are you going to think when the season ends, we miss the playoffs, have a top 5 draft pick, and we keep both Kaylee and Casario because you know it's going to happen? McNairs are scared for change. That would be a poor operation of the team. And that would not be how you maximize 2026. Excuse me for blowing my nose, but my allergies are killing me. That'd be a poor operation of the team. And I don't believe they would do that. I disagree with you. I don't believe they would do that. Bargain shop for running back when Saquon was available, shaking my head. Now, the rumor I heard was the Texans had a better offer. Saquon took less money, a different contract structure, and got to play the Giants twice a year. So I don't buy that one, Mike. I heard a different rumor. Mr. Robot wants to trade for a guard or a center. When Justin Watson gets back, does he get to be wide receiver 1? Good question. Can we go back to doing the Nick Casario live embarrassment tour like after 2022? Or 2022? Yeah, that was – if I can't do it, somebody else will do my job. Yeah? We might find out so if somebody else can. We might find out. All right. Housekeeping, and then wrap this thing up. We'll do the check marks tomorrow as well as maybe do a mock draft. So, housekeeping stuff. SNL today. Don't miss that. Myself and Landry Locker room tonight. Don't miss that. Houston football's got some stuff up there if you want to check that out. Working on new hats with a new logo. You're going to like it. So working on some new hats, a new logo. Spanky's on Halloween. Spooky day at Spanky's. It'd be great to get the kids filled up with pizza, energize them for trick-or-treating. I will be in costume. I encourage you to come in costume as well. Perhaps somebody's going to win something if they have the best costume. So Spanky's a week from Friday on Halloween. Get there. We get there at 3, live at 4, hang out till late after. Probably won't hang too late. Probably going to do some Halloween shenanigans. And that'll do it for the housekeeping today. We'll have more stuff tomorrow for you. The check marks tomorrow here on the channel. It's my hope for you. It's my charge for you as well. We in the live stream the same way each and every time. I want you to eat good. I want you to sleep good. I want you to be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hip-hoppity, dip-doppity-doo.